Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the sculpting portion of the tutorial. So as you can see from where we left off last, I have imported the asset into ZBrush, and you can kind of see right off the bat here that there are some issues. And I wanted to show this because even I make mistakes, and it's good to go over those, mistakes and like how I would solve them. So let's start with the obvious. So I see these giant triangular holes in the back here, and I think that we can go ahead and isolate this. So this just happens, as I mentioned before, this will happen if you have n-gons in your mesh, which means that if you have any sides that are more than 4 sides in, in your mesh in Maya, and ZBrush just doesn't know what to do with them, so it just kind of deletes them. Now, there's a couple of ways that I go about fixing stuff like this. One, I kind of categorize it as, yes, there's issues in the mesh, but I can just fix it in ZBrush. Like if the issue isn't that extreme, something, actually a good example of that would be, actually right here, I took a look at this one earlier, and I'm gonna go ahead and, it is subdivided, so I'm gonna go ahead and drop the subdivs. Actually go back further here. So this is how the mesh looked when it came in, right? So there's tons of holes in here. Looks pretty gross. Now this is something I deem as fixable in ZBrush. And the reason I deem it that way is because there's only a few pocketed holes everywhere. And if it was like missing all of these clusters right here where it's actually affecting the silhouette of the mesh, then I would go back and fix it. So what I do is I just go ahead and I have this hotkeyed. I do a close holes, and you'll see that it fills up those holes nicely. And how I can test to make sure that this works is if I just go ahead and give it some subdivisions, and you'll see right away that if I go ahead and turn off the line here, it basically smooths this just as I would expect it to. I don't see any issues here. I just see a nice, clean, smooth mesh. And if you wanted to, get rid of the different poly groups it created, or at least like the different colored ones, I have it hotkeyed here, but what you can do is just use a group visible, and it will group everything that's visible on screen. So that is how I would solve something when I deem it that it's fixable in ZBrush. Now with something like this, basically, any kind of issue that is not fixable in ZBrush, you will have to go back into Maya and take a look and fix that. And so, this is sort of one of the issues that can arise if you are modeling fairly quickly and if you're not too concerned about, your topology. However, I run into this issue more times than not, and the reason I continue to do this, obviously I try to minimize how many mistakes I make, of course, but the issues that I have ran into, I can pretty much just kind of solve them and fix them right away. So if you take a look at something like this mesh, I'm gonna go back into Maya here for a second. So how I fixed this one was actually really simple. Now you'll notice that this looks, pretty, in my mind, it's pretty atrocious as far as the topology, right? We got tries going everywhere. It's not the greatest thing in the world, and that's totally okay. And the reason why I think it's okay is because basically all of these meshes in here, for the most part, as far as I can, foresee, these are all going to get dynameshed. So my theory with all of this is that if you're going to make, if you're going to spend time to model cleanly inside of your your modeling software, and then if it's just going to eventually get dynameshed, well, in my mind, and this is just my workflow, making games, not films or anything, then I think that's just kind of a waste of time to do clean modeling. And again, I should mention, I usually only am referring to static props that don't bend or squish, and this is for video games, right? I know that there are so many different instances where you want to model cleanly, but if you're just making static props that are eventually just going to go and get dynameshed, this is totally an acceptable way to work in my mind. And this is, I do this professionally as well. And this is, just a good way that I like to work. So all I did was I looked at this mesh, I looked at where all the n-gons were, and basically just grabbed, for example, I believe all of these edges. If I can just remove these here. The mesh basically looked something like this. So obviously this has many different sides. And so if I just grab this and go to mesh, triangulate, it's just going to triangulate that, right? Because ZBrush just wants quads and it wants tris. It doesn't want n-gons. So that's basically what I do for my fix for all of these. If I notice that there are any discrepancies in my mesh or any of these assets, I just basically go through and I'll do a triangulate. There are some cases though where I might miss something, and I'll need to go through and actually model cleanly. It obviously varies per asset and what I'm working on. Sometimes some things just don't require a lot of attention, other things do. Okay, so let's go ahead and head back into ZBrush. Now I'm going to go ahead, and this is the first iteration that we last saw, that we brought in here. So I'm going to go ahead and actually just click on the cylinder here. I'm going to go ahead and click this R. This will kind of get rid of anything that's in my my tool palette here. I'm going to go back and I'm going to import that mesh again. And this mesh is with all of my new changes. All right, so the mesh is now brought back in. For the most part, it looks good. I think I might have saw one triangle that was loose, maybe not. But for the most part, I think this is this will do pretty nicely for us. Oh yeah, actually, this was the triangle I saw. So again, if I see something like this inside of ZBrush, I'm just going to simply go through and do a close holes. And I'm not going to start working on this just yet, so I'm just going to go through and do a group visible. And I like working this way because it just allows for the freedom to make mistakes, right? And knowing that if you make a mistake during this process, it's okay, because there are ways to go and solve those mistakes. And that's just that's just the way that I've really enjoyed working. It kind of makes it so you can model fairly quickly and just model without model without consequence. I mean, the consequence is that you will have to do some rework, but I'm always going to tell people to model as cleanly as possible. This is just the way that I prefer to work. Okay, so before we actually start, I just kind of wanted to go over a lot of the stuff that I talked about in the last video about making sure things were grouped appropriately. So as you can see, I have all of these subtools here. It appears that I have 69 different subtools. Now that, to me, that's a lot of different subtools. It's a lot to sculpt. So if you can imagine how many subtools there would have been, before we went through and edited all of this, and that's before I started deleting things, that's before I started grouping things. So the reason why it's so important to do that is because, if you're going to plan on dynameshing most of this stuff, you don't want to have to go through 69, or I'm going to have to do that, but you don't want to go through hundreds and hundreds of subtools and have to dynamesh all of them. So for example, what you can do, I have this part of the shelf selected here. If I just solo this, so you notice how all of these just have hard edges. Nothing has supporting edge loops, such as such as this piece, right? So if I look at this, this is built to smooth, like it needs to smooth, right? Because otherwise it has these facets. So if I just Control D, you'll see how it smooths nice and cleanly, just the way we want. Now, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and take this right here, and we're going to go ahead and do an auto groups. So notice this is just auto groups. I didn't split the groups and create more subtools. I just did an auto group. So there are each mesh is their own subtool, or excuse me, each mesh is their own polygroup. So with that, what you can do is you can go to your geometry tab and you can look at this button here, which says groups. Now what this will do is when you Dynamesh with this selected, it's going to respect that there are multiple groups near it. So it's not going to Dynamesh these pieces together. So if I just went ahead and did it without to show you, if I just Dynameshed it like this, and actually I'm going to back up here. I'm going to go up and turn off project. We don't want that on there. So let's go ahead and Dynamesh again. So you notice now how these meshes are now actually together. They are merged together, and that's something we don't want. So let's go ahead and turn this on, turn our wireframe on, and let's just leave the default resolution for start, and let's hit Dynamesh. So see how it respected these two pieces? It still Dynameshed it, but it's leaving these two separate. Well, I guess technically it's leaving all of these separate. And that's sort of the trick that I was trying to mention earlier when we were in Maya going through all of this is, you know, by doing that, you save so much time. And for me, I don't see any reason why I would need to ever split these up into separate subtools, unless for some reason, you know, the model or the sculpt required me to. So that's just something I really hope that some of you can take away from this, is that it's a really great way to work. It's a really great way to speed up the process of the sculpting. It's something that I figured out a while ago, and it's something that I just have always done. Obviously you can see here I didn't actually merge the books together, so that adds, you know, I think a few more subtools to the list, but that's okay. So I'm going to quickly go through here, and what I'm going to do is just kind of go through all of the different pieces, and I'm going to Dynamesh them up to a resolution that I think we can work with. Each one will be about the same. This is just the way that I like to work. You know, some people do like to go through, and what they do is they can turn off the smooth section under the subdivision, and then you could just simply divide up. That's something you could do, but because ZBrush really likes to have even edge loops to give even you know, flow for subdivision, and you can't see it now, but if I just deleted lower, you see this. So the reason I don't like to do that is because you see how much density this has down right here versus, you know, in the center right here. No, that just happens because of the way that I chose to model this. So if you decided to model with you know, clean quads, going through and doing a standard subdivision with smoothing turned off is totally viable if you wanted to work that way. I personally have found that for me, it's just faster if I just Dynamesh and then keep re-Dynameshing. That is pretty much the way I like to work for, I'd say about 90%. The other 10% is probably doing things that require constant feedback, where I would need to go up and down in subdivisions to change, you know, small, medium, and large forms. But this should work for us. So just to give you an idea, I just usually aim for a subdivision level with Dynamesh with these pieces. Oh, here we go. I like to aim just enough to where, like, it's got a good amount of density. It's going to hold up a lot of detail, because I'm probably going to just start going in and sculpting and getting this detail. So the amount I choose, for those of you wondering, it's just going to be enough to hold the amount of detail that I want, to make sure that's nice and crisp and clean. Now you'll see I'm not going to go up to, like, you know, 20 million for this entire thing here, but it'll be fairly high. So I'm going to go ahead and speed up the recording here, and I'll get back to you when that's done, and I'll just kind of talk you through my mindset for all of that stuff. Okay, so I went ahead and I got everything up to, well, mostly everything up to a nice subdivision and a nice Dynamesh. There's going to probably be a few things that I didn't get that I'll probably just get along the way. Now some of you might have questions as to, you know, should you go through and Dynamesh everything all at the start? Because yes, you know, everything is, you know, it's at 22.5 million, which, you know, it's not too bad depending on your machine. But, you know, I can tell there is some slight chugginess with this, so you definitely don't have to do all of the Dynameshing at the start. I like to because it's part of my process, and it's just a nice way to work, because as everything is Dynameshed, what you can do is start sculpting, and then when you're done, obviously you can just kind of continue your rhythm of sculpting as you go along, and you don't have to kind of stop and think about getting something Dynameshed. So that's personally why I like to go in this order, but you definitely do not have to, depending on how you like to work. So that kind of covers, you know, how to get something like this sort of started and, you know, prepped and ready to sculpt.